When was the last time this happened to you? You're at a social gathering and you see somebody you know and innocently walk up and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And they tell you. About the first 2 to 3 minutes, you're still engaged, but you were kind of hoping for a conversation. You were hoping for a return serve of, "Hey, and how are things with you?" But that doesn't come. No. More information is coming. 10 minutes go by and you start to squirm. 20 minutes go by and you realize you're on a one-way street with a dump truck of information still headed your way. You have run into the me monster. This person is all about themselves and wants you to know all about them, but they have no curiosity whatsoever about anything with you. So what do? They seem to be everywhere these days. They're in the stands at ball games while you're just trying to watch your kid play a game. They're sitting next to you on a plane. They tend to be at parties and just trying to corner you wherever they can be able to bestow their information on you. But they're also at work, loitering in the hallways or in the kitchen, just looking for an unsuspecting victim that actually nods at them. They don't even need to be spoken to sometimes. They could peer over the top of your cubicle at you. They even follow you into the bathroom sometimes. Used to be the stall was a safe place, but not so much. So what do? Well, you could avoid them, which is effective to a point, but if it's somebody, especially at work, that you have to work with, that's going to be tough. I would suggest that it may be something that you could consider telling them and being honest about. Just saying, "Hey, can we talk for a second?" Or at least let me talk for a second. This is an issue. You don't seem to ever ask other people questions. You're talking a lot when work needs to be done. This may be the first time this person has ever heard this. They may not be self-aware enough, and you may be the only person that's loved them enough to tell them. Now, it's easier if this is your subordinate, but if this is a peer or even a superior, taking a bit of a chance there, but that's something to consider. Before meetings, if you've got me monsters in your meetings and they just love to hear themselves talk, you may ask for a summary of what's going on to be submitted that you could review and everybody could read ahead of time. You could put a 1 minute limit as you go around the table on getting an update on what's going on. I know one person in his meetings, anytime he start to hear something that is being repeated that's already been said, they knock the table twice. And that means we've already heard it, give us something new or be quiet. That is an effective way to be able to handle it in meetings. What happens if you realize that the me monster is actually you? Now, I think we all can have a tendency to do this at times when we're given the floor. What are some ways that you can start to identify whether this is an issue for you? I would suggest take a look at the last few emails you sent and count how many times you have personal references in there. I, me, my. That is a telltale sign that this could be an issue for you. You don't want to make your communication all about you. You want to be curious and you want to make it about other people as well. That's a good filter right before you hit send on an email, is to go back and count how many I's and me's and my's you got in there, and then go back and reword those sentences so that you don't have those personal references in there. The other thing is to ask feedback from those that know you well. How can I make my communication with you better? That's not them ragging on you and saying it's awful. You're just saying, I want to make it better. So how can I make that better as I communicate with you? Verbally, phone, text, email, just ask. Something that I use with my clients that's quite effective are acronyms. They're letters that spell something, hopefully, that's meaningful, that can trigger you to remember, all right, I need to work on something. I have one client that's a salesperson that constantly is getting rejected and is wanting their conversations to not be needy, because needy is creepy. His acronym is GRASP, get real and stay positive. Well, that helps him stay positive, remembering who he is from a self-worth standpoint so he doesn't overtalk. Another client tends to be people-pleasing and overtalks when they get nervous. And so her acronym is WAIT, W-A-I-T. What am I thinking before she goes in and engages somebody? Another good one is ASK. which is a great outwardly focused word itself, and it stands for alternate speaking kindly. So it's taking the ball and then tossing it back. Being curious is another tool and that I think we've lost. My wife and I, years ago, when we were going to a lot of business functions that a lot of times were pretty mundane and meaningless, would get in the car on the way home and go, "Hey, did you have fun?" And usually the answer was no, not that much. It was kind of boring. So we decided to, instead of ask each other, "Did you have some fun tonight?" ask, "Were you able to blossom somebody? Were you able to ask about them, get to know somebody at a deeper level and find out things they're interested in and encourage them in that?" Along the way, we wound up finding out some pretty interesting things and actually making some friends from being curious about them, because they thought, "Wow, this person is actually interested in me." We wound up learning something like, "Hey, they went to Banff. We're thinking about going to Banff. What'd you learn?" Stay curious is a big part of this. And I think we've lost that these days because so much of what we want to do is the give of information. By the way, the me monster phrase is from a routine from Brian Regan. I encourage you to look it up on YouTube, Brian Regan, me monster. It's pretty funny. Unfortunately, it's pretty true too. So hopefully you're better prepared to deal with me monsters that are around you, as well as try to avoid being one yourself.